We're rolling. Start with that.
Okay. We're here with Tana.
Hi, Tana.
Hi, guys. So,
Tana, I met Tana through SIT. Yeah.
Great.
We all are alums
Yeah.
from SIT. Yeah.
I can't remember what was your class.
We were at Master of Arts in TESOL about
40, Matt 40.
Matt 40.
Matt 40 about 7 years ago.
So 1940.
No,
you
no,
guys
no,
look
no.
really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
we're
you.
very well preserved.
You are.
It's good, good, clean living makes a difference.
What year was Matt 40?
2008, 2009.
Okay.
And you?
And me,
Yeah.
SMAT, which is the summer program, and 2008. Yeah.
Okay.
So same brother, same year. That's right.
About
I
the same
think
time.
because
Just
saw each other.
before,
yeah,
yeah.
you overlap with Megan Pugh. Like she was in the following SMAT
She
group,
was in the
that
following
right? So
group, yeah.
and she was just after she was in the summer after we completed our IMET program.
Right.
We
So-
just happened to meet her, I think, at SIT once or twice.
Yeah.
We didn't really
Wait,
sit
wait,
down
wait.
and have a conversation.
We met in Roach
Yeah, probably the
in that big room
Yeah.
next to the map on the wall, that giant map on the wall. Is that where we met? There was a
big map.
dinner.
Yeah,
or-
remember
there
the
was,
map.
was it the big sort of the 40th year of the MAP program?
I think so. I
There
think
was
that
that
was
they
it.
get
There was
together.
a-
Bill
yeah, it was a
Connolly
big-
played guitar.
Yes.
It was a big
That's where I
reunion.
met you
Sing
guys.
along, yeah.
I was trying to think specific because I remember I met you at a specific place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I couldn't, but I think that's what it was. Yeah. So SIT is this place where we just make connections.
Yeah.
And continue to make
And
connections.
continue to make connections. Yeah. When I was looking for graduate schools, I did that thing where I studied for the GRE and I took the GRE and I kept thinking of all these places. And then I was working in Bangkok at the time. So the person in the class before me was Michael McMillan, and then he was a SMAT 25, and we happened to be working in the same place. Well, in the SMAT program, you have a professor who comes actually to your country, to your context, and observes you teaching there, right? Just like I don't know if they have it in the MAT program, but for summer
No,
MAT,
you don't go back to your own teaching context, really.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the site. I think we were with
Okay.
Mary Scholl down in Costa
Oh, okay.
Rica. So she was there, but I know like in Mexico, I think Paul Levasseur went down
Oh,
and visited
okay.
there. I think it depended on where your
Depends
site
on where
was.
you were. Okay, yeah. So for me, I'm working with Mike at this, at AUA in Bangkok, and suddenly he said, "Oh, my advisor is coming for a week, and I don't know where she should stay." I said, "Well, my apartment has sort of short-term stay as well as long-term. Let's put her there, and then I can, help her get to whatever." So I met her, and it happened to be Susan Bardun.
Susan
Wow.
Bardun.
Who was, the program chair, summer program chair at the time. So
She still is.
and she still is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hung out with Mike, and he was telling me about his program a little bit more, and I'm applying to all these regular graduate schools, right? And but they invited me to dinner one night. I hear them talking sort of SIT, experiential learning, and all this stuff, and well, it's kind of curious, kind of interesting. Seems kind of like it could be me.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking Susan, we're going back for the last night, and she's leaving in the morning, so we're going up the elevator together, and I get out on my floor, and just as the elevator's closing, I said, "Do you think I could get into SIT?" And the door's closing, she goes, "Yes." And away she goes.
That's a great story, Tana.
So I thought, I'd better apply then. And of course I did, and then I wound up there, and it did turn out to actually
Was
be
it soon
a good
after
fit.
that you went?
I went the next year.
Okay.
Yeah,
For the summer program.
for the summer
Yeah.
program.
So you would be there in the summer for about 1 or 2 months, and
for
then
2 months, and then back to
go
work,
back to
and then
your
back to
job.
summer. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Recently, they lessened the amount of time when you have to be on campus, so it's like 2
Right.
weeks, right?
I don't know. I was there one summer, and they invited me in to talk to them about it a little bit, but I don't know much about their experience.
Either, yeah. But I think they have more of an online component, but then you have to be in for like intensive work
Sure.
with your colleagues and the professors.
I wouldn't have given up that time with those guys, though.
Yeah.
The second summer, we all came back, and we were just like, tears. Oh, it's so good to see you. What have you been doing? And it was, that's the connection part for me, right? Which is what we were sort of talking about. those
That's
connection
why I like
things.
conferences though, because you see people
Yeah.
who.
Yeah, who was it? Michael Griffin just kind of said, here are 5 people from my life, from different varieties of my life, and we were all
Right.
hanging outside the
The same.
SIT booth. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So how did you? I never heard this story. How did you two wind up at
There?
Oh,
Our
SIT.
origin stories?
Oh.
Did you want to go first on?
Okay. Let's see. I was at my University of California, studying abroad in Barcelona.
Okay, UC
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
Studying
Okay.
abroad. I was a English and Spanish dual major.
Okay.
And I did a year abroad in Barcelona. So this
Nice.
was way back in 2004. Anyway, there I was in Barcelona, and in our office for our program, there was a bulletin board, and I saw an ad for, are you interested in teaching language? And there's a certificate course, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll go and see what that is. And not to join the course, but just to talk and see.
Okay.
Yeah, just see.
No
So
commitment.
I met the guy who was running it. His name was Brian, and he let me come and see some classes and he talked with me.
Oh,
and
nice.
so I was there watching a lady with maybe 12 students around her. They were all they were all Catalans. They were there from Barcelona, Spanish speakers learning English, and she was introducing how to talk about family members, and she was doing it all very. It was all very personal. She was talking about her family and showing pictures, and the way she was introducing it, they were all very interested and saying the words and the people's names together as she was showing the pictures and the relationship names. And I thought, wow, why didn't I learn Spanish this way? It just was so enjoyable and real. It was tied to their real lives. Then she would have them draw their own family members and talk about with their partners and all. I can't describe it very well at the moment, but I just remember the feeling of being feeling like this is the way we should learn languages. It's just together and sharing about ourselves and asking each other about. And so I learned that certificate program was through SIT. After I graduated from my English and Spanish bachelor's degree program, I earned money for a year and went back and got that certificate. In Barcelona, and then I came to Korea for my first full-time teaching job. And while I was here for 2 years, I decided, even though it was really hard for me in many ways, that was the kind of teaching I wanted to learn more about. And so I applied to SIT, and I met Jeff.
Yeah.
And we, anyway. The most expensive but successful dating service
in the world, as we like to joke.
Yeah. Many marriages came out of our group. I think there were 4.
Wow.
Four
Okay.
marriages. Yeah.
Yeah. So it does foster more than just friendship connections.
Yes,
there,
yes,
doesn't
yes.
it? Yeah.
Anyway, that was an aside.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I learned a lot when I was at the master's program. Yeah.
So if we're going into origin stories, to use comic book parlance, I was a Peace Corps volunteer for 2 years in Central Asia.
You came through Peace Corps.
In Kyrgyzstan, and I loved teaching, but I was terrible at it. And even I realized that at that time, going through the 2 years, I got better, I learned a little bit, but it just wasn't quite there for me yet, for lack of a better term. And I went back to the States, and I just got kind of a regular job, and it was okay. I was doing IT work, and I actually got into a little bit of IT training, and that's wow, I want to get back in teaching. IT bores me. I really love teaching English. I really love teaching languages. So as a RPCV, returned Peace Corps volunteer, I began just looking into different master's programs, and there's a fellowship program between Peace Corps and SIT. And, I applied there. There's a school up in, I think, University of Maryland has a program with the Peace Corps and all. And I just kind of applied, and it just seemed like SIT was the best match for me. Kind of like you, I was scrambling, taking GREs and doing this, that, and the other. But I just got a really great feeling, especially from the admissions person at the time. His name was Marshall Brewer, as you guys know well. And he was just so welcoming and so open in a way that I didn't feel from the other people, and just,
And he knew the program.
he knew the program inside out as he was going through the MAT program part-time at that point. So I just had a great feeling about SIT, and the more I learned about it, the more excited I was. And
luckily he didn't go anywhere else.
That's true, I didn't go anywhere else, and it was a perfect. I
Nice.
felt like a good fit for me.
Yeah.
I remember I learned a lot about assessment at SIT
Yeah.
that I hadn't known from,
Interesting.
learning before different ways of assessing students, not always like, the test, but formative assessment.
right.
And then culture being a major component too, not only for language learners, but for language teachers too.
Yeah, that
How
was a little
culture is-
eye-opening for me as well.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting for me when I hear us talking just now. I hear this way that it teaches us as teachers to connect with our students, but we carry that over in connecting with each other.
Sure.
It's that personal life kind of thing. So I think for me, when I meet people who've been through other graduate programs, like, I met some people there, but they're not really friends with them, or they don't go out of their way to meet them or to do anything with them or recommend them for jobs or whatever. Whereas we have a very tight community, which I think is
I think
special.
it was just we experienced a lot together, and we kind of struggled with a lot of things together in our program. That's what I feel is like. It was a lot of who we are as people and learners, which is huge. So I think that's for me. That's what the connection is about, because it's just an ongoing learning process with each other.
Yeah.
So
Kind of build off of you guys. It's almost like a perspective or a worldview that you come out of with SIT that I think is different from undergraduate programs. And it's interesting, you mentioned we were talking to our colleagues, said, we're going to help out, we're going to help man the SIT booth, they can't send the admissions person. I'm like, I'd never do that for my grad program, was like what our colleagues here would say, like who went to another program. Like, I was fine, I got my degree, but I was done with that place once I was gone. But I think SIT, just as you just said, continues to grow and continues to make that
Generates those
connection.
experiences. Yeah.
Is there any form of continuation or SIT alumni community or anything? Or you guys just stay
There used to be one here in Seoul that I would come up to occasionally, so they would meet and just go to dinner.
Yeah.
Like tonight they're meeting, but I know that there was sort of a formal thing, and we would meet when we used to meet at Sukmyong.
Yeah.
And we'd rent a room, and we would all go and meet and talk there and keep up with each other. And there's a number of different Facebook groups, Mat Time, and then there's one for people who've been through the certificate course. I think there is that sort of thing. Some people go on to be trainers, which is part of a world learning thing. It's a separate community, like Mike, right? So he's sort of SIT. Mike Griffin.
Oh yeah.
Right? So he's an SIT trainer, which brings him sort of in from this other perspective.
He went to the new school, didn't he?
He did go to the
New school and then SIT training.
and became an SIT trainer. Yeah. So that's a different. I know a lot of SIT trainers who are either both or they've come in that way, and it's also those people tend to be people who are interested in making connections, who are interested in their students as people. So it's a very humanistic approach. Yeah.
And you're also a teacher of trainers, is that correct?
I am. Yeah.
You were in Daegu for a long while, several years.
About 2.5 years.
Oh, 2.5 years. Okay. Yeah, you did a lot with the program, but now Saudi Arabia.
Now I'm in Saudi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have 3 locations that you're coordinating, or
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned Marshall Brewer.
Yeah.
Marshall Brewer is also now with the same company I am, which is Interlink. And so in the U.S. we have intensive English programs with 4 different colleges. But in Saudi we have a major university, Al Yamama. We've just picked up another one called the Institute for Public Administration. Because they're all acronyms, right? So I'm trying to say the whole thing. It's IPA. And then TBTC, which is more of a technical community college. Right? So, I work with all of those groups. So we have maybe 250 teachers in the field and a lot of site directors, and it's...
so all those students are learning English, but it sounds like maybe it's kind of for specific purposes. Like you have public administration and you have
They start out with very
like
general
text.
English, because what we find is a lot of the English level is quite low.
Yeah.
You get some anomalies, right? People who've actually studied overseas before or who've traveled with their families.
Yeah.
But for the most part, English level is quite low. And so it's bringing them up to a certain thing and then preparing them primarily for jobs in country.
In country.
Unless it's at so the community college, it's mostly jobs in country. Sure. Maybe
What kind
they'll
of
work
skills
for...
do they need in the technological field? Like, do they need 4 skills a lot? Is it
What they
mostly
really
about-
need is the ability to have a conversation,
Okay.
to read and maybe write a small email, to be able to follow directions, to
Okay.
be able to ask
Yeah.
questions about their jobs.
Yeah.
Because the companies, even though they're in Saudi, are probably run by a foreign organization.
Okay. Yeah.
So their boss, maybe not their immediate boss, but somewhere along the line, it's going to be an English-speaking person. So they need to be able to have those.
Yeah.
It's more about communication skills, I think.
About their work.
About their work and communication skills. And what we like to say, we just have a new country director for our community college program. And he says we're teaching young Saudis not Western culture, not to be westernized, but to have the language skills and knowledge of the culture so that they can actually interact effectively with their employers. So we're not trying to, so being on time is a very Western concept for them. So we're not trying to teach them to be on time because you should.
It's the way to do it.
But if you're going to actually work for a Western employer, they're
So
going
it's
to
just a shift,
expect
an ability
that.
to move between.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yes.
raising awareness of expectations and how they may differ.
Right. So if you want to get and keep a job with Aramco, which is a good job for them to have, then you actually need to be on time. Right? And you need to be able to explain why you've done different
Do they, I
things.
wonder, like, it always makes me think of the flip side then, like, are they able to communicate about their work life, their own expectations? Yeah.
Is that
For people coming in from all over the place.
They do, but when you're working for a big company like an oil company, they're
That's
not.
the boss.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice for them to be able to express themselves, maybe with their immediate boss or with other employees who may be from other places, but there mostly it's about their ability to work for that company, right? Which is and they're quite motivated. The young men are quite motivated to do that. The women, of course, don't go out and work from the home, so that's a completely different.
Do you have women?
We do.
Students?
Yeah, we do. So that's quite different. They're motivated, I think, in a way to not to be able to not have to be with their family all day long.
Okay.
To come in and be able to talk to other women their age, and to actually meet and talk with a Western teacher. This is even now for some of our smaller sites. It's the only Western person that they've actually met. So in that sense, just being present and being there as a woman role model for them is, I think, as important as the language component.
Contact.
Yeah, so really being aware of who you are and how you act and the values that you are representing is really important. So it's kind of very much a Peace Corps type of approach in that for women's sides mostly. Not at the big universities, but with our small hospitals.
Now, Tana, when we were at SIT, there was a connection between Interloop and SIT. Is that still active?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, unfortunately. Yeah. When they changed their summer program, there was some time lap there, and so Interloop moved to work with another university. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But very similar.
Like,
Well, it's good to see you guys.
Great to talk to you too.
how long has it been since you were in Korea?
It's been about a year and a half now. Yeah. So it's good to get back. Mostly for people. It's interesting. I mean, Korea's nice in and of itself, but it's really nice to come back and see people and see colleagues, see what they're doing with their lives, how they've moved forward, and really get to come and see them here.
Yeah.
Hear them talk, and it gives you an idea of what they've been doing professionally, which is always fascinating.
There's a lot going on. Always.
Korea is a hotbed of professional development, I think, in terms of English speaking. I mean, I'm sure there are other places, but compared to Saudi, it really is a hotbed of development. So it's really exciting to be here.
So this is your first time back since working down in Taipei?
It is. Yeah.
I would think there would be more professional development going on in Saudi too. I just often hear of people interested in going to the Middle East.
There is in Saudi to a certain extent, but given that you can't get a visitor visa to come into Saudi, there's no real conferences being held there. They're always outside of the country.
Yeah.
TESOL Arabia is in Abu Dhabi, is that right? Or is
It's either in the Emirates or Qatar or Bahrain or somewhere else. So it's never in Saudi. It's pretty close to that.
We have some friends recently who moved to Qatar.
Yeah, in Doha.
Oh, in
Yeah.
Doha. Okay.
Yeah, well, an SIT, or actually, his name's Tobias. I don't know if you ever ran across him or not. Tobias Lee. I think he was a MAT 41 or 42.
Okay.
So he would have been after our time and possibly after your time as well.
He had taught in China.
In China for a while. In fact, did you see Susan Bardun's IATEFL plenary from a year or two ago?
I did.
Yeah, they
she-
broadcast
yeah.
it online.
Yeah, she referenced Tobias specifically. He was the one who
At the
was
end,
who was
yeah.
talking about hanging out in China, grabbing a beer with his colleagues, and having a conversation. I don't know if you remember.
It was about learning teaching.
learning teaching
Yeah.
through
Oh,
other
okay.
teachers.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, interesting.
these sort of the expat thing.
Yeah, the expat thing. Well, shall we wrap?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep talking, but I don't know.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Jeff.
you.